time.
Blood bow.
With Ayaka having her rerun soon, I thought this would be a good time to do a comparison for Ganyu and Ayaka. It's no surprise to those familiar with theory crafting and meta perspectives that these are two of the best on-field DPS characters in the game. Freeze teams continue maintaining a high value for Spiral Abyss content, with few iterations being a poor matchup for the team. The question I had about these two specifically for myself was how differently does Freeze teams operate with either, and does Ganyu have more flexibility than Ayaka? Let's get into it. For artifact builds, Ganyu has some flexibility and choices with 4-piece Wanderer's Troop, giving her a 35% damage increase to charge attack, and 4-piece Blizzard Strayer providing up to 40% crit rate when opponents are frozen. Ayaka is much more strict, sticking with Blizzard Strayer. Of course, if you're new to either of them, you might not immediately have access to these sets. You can supplement 2-piece Gladiator, Imanawa, and Noblesse until you have more time to farm out the better sets. For weapons, really anything will work on either character. If you don't have something to use, the craftable weapons like Prototype Crescent and Aminoma are quite competitive. I have my Ganyu on a Skyward Harp. It's a good bow to help fix crit value and provide a little extra damage from its AoE ability. Ayaka on the other hand is on the Black Sword, which is serviceable. I won't recommend Constellations on any 5-star. There's a lot that should go into the decision. Are you willing to miss out on newer characters? Do you have the in-game or IRL funds to go to the full 90 wishes and lose the 50-50 or multiple ones? And so many other considerations. It's difficult to rationalize it for myself, let alone for another person. The expense for marginal gains or to just make a character function isn't a fair trade in my eyes. When we look at Ayaka, it's important to take a look at her Ascension passives. When Cryo is applied at the end of your dash and hits an opponent, you'll receive an 18% Cryo damage bonus for 10 seconds. This is great for increasing her entire kit's damage. Her other Ascension passive gives her attacks a 30% increase to damage for 6 seconds. This is nice, but Ayaka is not like Ganyu where these attacks are a priority. Ganyu also has important Ascension passives. After firing a fully charged attack, the crit rate of the next and its bloom effect is increased by 20% for 5 seconds. Her other Ascension passive gives her burst a 20% cryo damage bonus to active members inside the AoE. This increases her entire kit's damage, and with it not being gated specifically to the character like Ayaka's passive, Ganyu can function as a cryo support. Ascension passives can sometimes be overlooked since it's not something we activate like an elemental skill or burst. If it's a good passive, it will have a meaningful impact on the character or team. When it comes to Ayaka, she is the master of one team style, and that's Freeze. When it comes to carries that are the top echelon, the expectation is for those characters to carry the team. So it's more acceptable for them not to be as flexible in other teams. Ayaka's damage is mostly loaded into her elemental burst, and through buffing can demolish opponents quickly. With less need to continue doing damage on field, players can shift their focus into particle generation for the next burst, maintaining freeze for Blizzard Strayer, and elemental resistance decrease to cryo from the 4-piece VV set. Her damage is more tailored towards single target fights and can shine when opponents are grouped and frozen. No characters in Genshin are without flaw, and Ayaka is no exception. With an 80 energy cost burst, lack of energy recharge and particle funneling can hurt your damage and rotation. Avonius weapons and someone like Venti can fix that, but not everyone will have access to these things. If enemies are not under the effects of crowd control, her burst can miss, and since this makes up so much of Ayaka's damage, the DPS loss is painful. This plays into whatever the most recent iteration of Spiral Abyss is. If the opponent is a boss type like Magu Kenki, Golden Wolf Lord, or Primo Giavisha, as just a couple examples, these are unfreezable and ungroupable. When it comes to Ganyu, she is much less restricted by team style and being locked to just hyper carry. She's consistent in freeze, can slot into a melt team, and support cryo team. Ganyu's damage is loaded into her burst and normal attack, specifically the fully charged bloom effect. With the need to pull off charge attacks, she is a much more greedy on-field carry. The burst is really strong when in situations with multiple enemies under crowd control. When that happens, it's called quadratic scaling. In Razor language, group bad, ice hits all same time, not one at a time. The burst is 60 energy cost, so energy recharge and particle funneling is not as important for her. Ganyu's damage is tailored towards mobbing content and can still perform in single target fights. Her only glaring issues are with charging up her attacks and making good use of her burst, especially in single target scenarios. Getting staggered by an attack will cancel charging, so you'll either have to run a strong shield unit or consistently dodge attacks without losing out on too many charge attacks. So the question you hear for the answer. Should you pull Ayaka? If you have Ganyu, there isn't much of a point to, since you already have one of the best on-field DPS characters for freeze. If you don't have Ganyu, as long as you have the characters to create a freeze team, Ayaka can be a good carry for you. Personally for myself, Ayaka has done a lot to elevate my account. I came back when Yoimiya was first released and ended up rolling for Ayaka, then decided to start doing Spiral Abyss content. I prefer her playstyle over Ganyu. I've never been a fan of charge attacks in Genshin, they feel clunky to me. In the description I'll have links to the Kaching main guides for Ganyu and Ayaka so that anyone that would like more in-depth guides has access to them. Hopefully this video was informative and accurately showcased what these characters can do for your account. If you enjoyed the video, it really helps the channel to like the video so others can see it. And if you want to support me and see future Genshin related content, subscribe.